Happy Monday, everybody. Today we are going to read Chapter 2 of Ghostville Elementary, the Ghost Class. Chapter 2 is called Spiders. Nina's screaming cut through the darkness of the hallways. Is it? Mr. Morton asked, rushing toward Nina. What's wrong? Something brushed up against my leg. Nina blurted out. It was big and it was hairy. Very hairy. Maybe it was a giant spider with 8 hairy legs, Jeff said with a straight face. Nina screamed again. If there were one thing she hated, it was spiders. Everyone knew it. Mr. Morton patted Nina on the shoulder. I'm sure it was just a cobweb, he said. Don't spiders make cobwebs? Jeff asked in the most innocent voice. Cassidy put her arm around Nina's shoulders. Darkness had never bothered Cassidy. She figured if she kept close to her friend Nina, wouldn't be scared too. There's nothing to be afraid of in this basement, Mr. Morton said again with a shaky smile before glaring at Jeff. Stop teasing, Jeff, Mr. Morton warned. Lots of teachers said that to Jeff. It had never worked before, and Cassidy had a feeling it wasn't going to work for Mr. Morton either. Just then, Cassidy felt something big and cold press up against the back of her leg. Someone's got me, she screamed, and whirled around. Nothing was there. Mr. Morton put his hands on his hips. He was about to say something. Another kid hollered, Something slimy licked my finger. The twins, Mr. Carla and Darla, yelled at the same time. Someone pushed us. Stop kidding around, Mr. Morton said formally. This joke is gone on long enough. Now let's look at our new classroom. Cassidy hadn't been joking. Someone or something really had grabbed her leg. Cassidy swallowed hard and went into the classroom. Dust floated in the weak light of the dirty half windows. And there's a picture. Must be of the classroom. Had a cracked chalkboard covered by years of dust. Rows of mismatched furniture filled the room. Cobwebs fluttered and the water stained the ceiling. Oh, great, Nina moaned. More cobwebs. This place looks like a graveyard for old school stuff, Cassidy said. Look at the antique desk and the shelves. I wish this was a graveyard, a haunted graveyard. I went to a haunted cemetery ride once in Florida that had Dracula and werewolf. It even had giant bugs. I bet this basement is full of giant bugs, Nina complained. Cassidy, Nina, and Jeff sat near each other in the 3 oldest looking desks in the room. As soon as Cassidy sat down, she felt a cold chill, as cold as it made her bones ache. To Cassidy, the school's techno-whiz, the thought of spending an entire year trapped in a musty room sounded like pure torture. The room was dingy and dirty. The map on the end of the chalkboard was so old it didn't even picture all the states. Mr. Morton didn't seem to notice. He wrote math problems on the chalkboard like it was his favorite thing to do. Soon the cloud of fine chalk dust poofed around his head and covered his thick black framed glasses. Cassidy shook her curly blonde hair in disbelief. What is he doing? She asked Nina. Does he know we're supposed to play games on the first week of school? Nina was too busy watching the cobweb. She was sure the big black spider stared back at her. Cassidy sighed and looked around the room for a computer. She gasped. There wasn't a single keyboard to be seen. What kind of room is this? She whispered to Jeff. We don't even have a computer. I feel like we've stepped back in time. Here's a picture. When Cassidy tried to sit down, it felt like she was sitting on someone's lap. Yikes, Cassidy yelped and jumped up. Mr. Morton peered over his math book. Please take your seat and get work, Miss Logan, Mr. Morton said. Are you okay? Nina whispered. Cassidy nodded. She bent over her seat and stared long. What's wrong? Andrew sneered. Are you allergic to your chair? A few kids giggled. Carla and Darla gave Cassidy identical warning glares, but Cassidy ignored them and continued to examine her seat. Her chair looked old, and it was definitely empty. This was the stupidest desk in the world, Cassidy snapped and flopped down in her chair. This time she ended up on the floor. I'll get you for that, Andrew, she blurted. Some kid snickered. Andrew laughed out loud. I didn't do anything, klutzy Cassidy, he said. Mr. Morton stood by Cassidy's desk and crossed his arms over his chest. Enough is enough, Miss Logan, he said. For disrupting the entire class and writing on school property, you will have to stay inside during recess, all by yourself. Cassidy looked around the basement room and gulped. She would find out who had moved her chair, and she would get even if it was the last thing she did. It's the end of chapter 2. We will do chapter 3 next time.